Coming up on our Finding Better podcast, boy oh boy, episode 129, we have got such amazing people. And this is another one of those episodes, episode 129 with Angelo Valenti. We're going to talk about how we make life so hard, and it doesn't have to be nearly as it is. And, one of the things he talks about in terms of our own self esteem and our own self image is that we have survived, you have survived 100% of the worst times of your life. Isn't that cool? That makes you pretty special as it is. So, we're going to talk about all kinds of things, and all of us have something to offer. So, sit back, relax, enjoy. Please share this because there are folks out there that need to hear these messages. Angelo is an amazing guy. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I'm your host. And this is where we share real life experiences of people who have been there and done that, and any number of things in life. And the idea is that sometimes the best path to success is to copy it. And so we don't talk about opinions, we don't talk about academics, we don't talk about theories. We talk about real life lived experiences that hopefully you might be able to learn from and apply to your own life and your journey to build a better life for yourself. My guest today is Angelo Valenti. And he wrote a book. He's in Nashville, and Nashville is one of my favorite places on the planet. I love Nashville. Um, and he wrote a book called You're Making This Way Too Hard. Find Your Easy Way to Enjoy Life. How cool is that? This podcast is called Finding Better, right? And it's all about helping you achieve a better life. And we've all gone through the hard knocks of life. And if there are things that we can do to help you avoid some of those hard knocks and move forward, that's what we want to do. Angelo, welcome to Finding Better. Thank you for joining me.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about you. You've been around for a while, and you wrote this book called "You're Making This Way Too Hard."
Right.
So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your experiences, but let's talk about what led you to write that book because it's one thing to have this as a manuscript or your own building your own map to life, but you put it out there and you put it out there for others to learn from. So what led you what were the experiences that made you go, man, I'm making this way too hard on myself.
Right. Well, having been there myself in making things too hard at times, we all have. Um, I I wanted to put down in writing some of my experiences and some of the things I've learned from others that have kind of helped me in my journey. Well, you're right. I have been around a long time. I graduated from college in 1971, from graduate school with a PhD in 1975. So I have been around for a while. But what what I tried to do in the book is give people practical ideas, practical tips, suggestions for how they can quit overcomplicating their life, feeling bad about themselves, and help them to find joy, contentment, self-acceptance. In the introduction, I tell people this is not a self-help book. This is a self-acceptance book.
It's a self-acceptance book. I love that.
Yes.
Okay, so you know especially these days, I just retired from about a 40-year career in high tech.
Hmm.
And technology has changed the world faster than the world's ever been changed, and it's
Right,
continuing to accelerate.
right.
And what I have found is that as much as technology has been a wonderful thing, in a lot of ways, technology has made life a lot harder.
Absolutely. It
Do you
has.
agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree with that. And I specifically like to focus on social media. I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
Yeah,
Because I'm on social media because I'm trying to promote my business and promote my book and
right,
give people some practical tips on how to find joy and contentment in their life. But so many people have rely on social media for their self-worth and how they feel about themselves based on how many likes they get or how many
right,
views they get. And it's a totally what people need to understand, and I think they do at some level, but they've kind of ignored it, is that social media is artificial. It's fake. People are posting exactly what they want you to see. They're not posting the dirty details of their life or the downs or the and
right.
in fact, I just spoke with somebody a week or so ago about he does uh, helps people record social media videos, and he told me you have no idea how many people rent a Lamborghini or they'll rent a boat
Yeah, right,
and then they'll shoot a bunch of clips for so and then they go back and they're living in an apartment or they're not paying their bills or
right,
whatever it might
right,
be. So
right.
it's a totally artificial situation and people take that so seriously.
Yeah,
And then they compare their life, which if you're like 99.9% of people is not glamorous. It has a lot of downtime. It's mostly boring. It's mostly day-to-day routine, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when you compare your life to somebody sailing around in a yacht or driving a Lamborghini or
right.
visiting Rome or Paris or Asia or whatever it might be, uh, you can't compare to that. But
Yeah.
they can't, the people who are doing it can't
They're
compare
not
to that either
exactly.
because it's not real.
And you just said that 99% of people, if you're like the 99% of people that really aren't like that, I'd say that 100% of people.
Right.
What I've found is that everybody's got something going on. Everybody has got a part of their life that's worse than yours. I don't care who it
Yes.
is, right? Everybody's got something going on. And one of the in terms of your love-hate relationship with social media, me too. The reason for my having launched this podcast is because of that hate part of my relationship with social media. Exactly what you just talked about is that I wanted to create a safe place. I wanted to create a place that offered real people and real insights and real experiences, um, and a place where nobody is wanting anything from you, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
I will tell you, I know that with you and me, folks, what you see is what you get, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'll be 76 years old in a couple days. And at about
That's amazing.
45 or 50, the don't give a damn gene kicked in. And when I quit, I've achieved, more happiness in the last 25 years because I quit caring what everybody thought about me. I quit caring about how this is going to be viewed by others or how I came across or whether people liked me or not. And when I realized that the people who love me no matter what my flaws or quirks are. As I use the word quirks in the
Yeah.
book because we all have got them. And the people who don't like me, there's not much I can do to make them like me. So I just decided to spend my time with the people that I love and the people that love me and let the rest of the world go on their way. Uh, okay, so that really
Now,
helped
okay,
me.
I pause there because to me that is such an incredibly life-changing thing if and when you can do that, right? To
Yes.
stop caring about what other people think. We always care about what people think. I care about people think, and as much as I try to convince myself I don't care what other people think, there's a part of me that does. And but the fact of the matter is, uh, the truth is that I really only care about what the people I love think of me.
Right. And
And
most people aren't thinking about you at all. No,
yeah,
they're
that's true.
just
That's
not.
true. That's true.
They're they're concerned about themselves. They're not thinking about you. They're not, and they're not judging you because they don't care enough about you to judge you. So,
Right. Right.
I mean, and if you once you realize that your circle, the people that you interact with on a daily basis, the people that love you and the people that you love are really the only people that have much of an impact on your life on a day-to-day basis.
Anyway.
Everything else is just noise.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that everything else that makes life so complicated and
Yes.
makes life so hard, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that I talked about all the time in the second 20 years of my professional career. I did a lot of speaking. And I always spoke um, with a theme. And that theme was it's all about love. It's all about
Hmm.
love. Success in business, it all, if you distill all the noise, if you take everything out of your life and bring it down to the one single element, it's all about heart and love. But it's so hard. It's so hard because you have all this noise in your life, right?
Right.
So
Right.
um, how do you filter all that stuff out? Uh, because what we've been talking about with regards to social media and everything and what people think of us, your theme of you're making this way too hard, right?
Right.
On yourself. How do you deal with that? How do you filter that stuff out?
Well, the first thing you have to do is recognize it. You have to
Good.
acknowledge that the noise is out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to ask yourself some difficult questions like how is this really affecting me? Does this really matter? In the great scheme of things, does this really matter? You know, the things we worry about today, 6 months down the road, chances are there was nothing to worry about in the first place.
Or day after tomorrow.
Or sometimes the day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's true. But we get caught up in the moment, and I think that's another area where technology has really hurt us in some ways, is we have instant access to both information, misinformation, misinformation, bad information,
Yes.
and we're bombarded with it. And the speed at which it comes to us makes it difficult for us to filter everything out. So I think, a good start would be to take a pause. I mean, if you can stand to be away from social media or the news for a day, 2 days, 3 days, see if your life has dramatically changed for the worse. And you'll find that it hasn't. In some ways, you'll
Yeah.
find that you're more relaxed, uh, you're more at peace with yourself, and your mind isn't filled with so many conflicting ideas or so many things that you're supposed to think about that you don't really need to think about. That I think you'll find your life is better in some ways almost immediately.
My daughter, when she went to college, she went to Santa Clara University, which is kind of in the heart of Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
And she majored in business, got her business degree. And one day, the one senior executive of Facebook came to the university to give a talk, and the room was just packed, as you can imagine, young people. And here's this
Oh,
guy from
sure.
Facebook. And so he asked everybody in the room, he goes, "How many of you guys have Facebook account?" And everybody in the room raised their hands, except
Right.
for one person, and that one person was my daughter. And
Wow.
she always likes to sit in the front row. So she's not, when she didn't raise her hand, it's pretty obvious to the speaker. So he turned to her and he says, "You don't have a Facebook account?" And she says, "Nope." He says, "Tell me about that." And when she said no, I mean, she all the oxygen in the room got sucked out, right? Everybody was like, seriously, kind of thing. And he says, well, why don't you have one? She says, I did have one. And she says, and she told him, but I canceled it and I don't have it anymore. And he says, really? She says, yeah, yeah, I had an account and I'm a freshman and I decided I'm going to turn it off when I came here. He says, what happened? And she said, I got 8 hours of my life back every day. Eight
Wow.
hours of
Eight
my life
hours.
back.
Wow.
Yeah, because she said on Facebook, I was constantly looking at what people are saying about me and constantly looking at what my friends are going on doing and all this stuff. Noise, all that noise, right?
Yep.
And she said, I feel better about myself. I, because I'm not worried. I've just cut it out of my life. And so it was that experience that taught her, right? And to this day, she knows how to manage and she manages it so that it doesn't affect her. And it changed her life. It changed turning it off.
Well,
Um,
good for her. There aren't that many 18-year-olds that have the
right,
self-discipline
right.
to do that and
Yeah,
the
and she said she
self-control.
uses it now. She uses it now because of the love hate part of social media, right? But she
Right.
knows she knows how to keep the love part and she knows how to manage the hate part, and the
Well,
bad
you
parts
can
of
get
it.
sucked into a black hole so fast if you
Totally.
decide you want to interact with random people who you don't know if it's their real account or it's a fake account. You can
Right.
get sucked into that, and that's where I think a lot of cyberbullying comes in and a lot of
Totally. Totally.
mistreatment of other people because people will say things to other people on social media that they would never say to them face to face,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh,
Because they get punched in the mouth. Right.
Absolutely.
In the old
Yeah.
days when you and I were growing up, right? I
Oh,
mean, we weren't able to hide behind a screen. I mean,
no.
we understood what consequences were.
Oh, sure.
And so,
And,
yeah,
being men of a certain age, I'm sure when you were a boy, you got into one or two fights. I got into one or two fights. And you kind of learn how to deal with conflict in a more constructive way when you have a fight and you either punch somebody in the nose or they punch you in the nose and it doesn't feel very good. I mean, it doesn't feel good hurting somebody else, and it really doesn't feel
yeah.
good getting hurt by somebody else.
Pain is
But
a great teacher.
yeah, it is a great teacher. Well, we learned to deal with conflict more directly. And if somebody was bullying somebody else, there was going to be a confrontation, a face-to-face confrontation,
Right.
and it was going to get settled and everything was going to work out. For some people, it worked out great. For some people,
Yeah.
less great. I
Yeah.
know, but there was going to be a resolution,
Right.
and you can have an endless argument with people on social media if you're inclined to argue with people.
Right.
Uh,
Totally. Totally.
and it can last forever.
And there are people
So
out there
I,
who want to argue, who
oh
live to
yeah,
argue,
they
who
live
who
to
just
argue.
right to get a rise out of you. And these are 99% of the time, these are people you don't even know, right?
Right. You
And
don't know.
or even
And
100% of the time.
there's even a little paragraph in my book entitled Don't Argue with Idiots. And, if you just decide not to play the game, you'll be much better off. If somebody wants to pick an argument with you on social media, all you have to do is not respond to them.
Right.
You'll feel better and it'll really irritate them. So it's a
Yeah,
win-win.
that's right. That's right. It's a win both ways for you, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is really it's wonderful and insidious at the same time.
Yeah.
And the rise of, I did a little bit of studying in it and on mental illness. And the rise of social media has given way to a rise in mental illness as well.
Absolutely.
And there's a direct correlation on some of the studies that I've seen. And so, yeah, yeah, it's amazing. Try turning it off, folks. There was one other experience that my daughter and I've got two kids, but my daughter and I one day went to Mexico to build houses with Habitat
Oh,
for
good for you.
Humanity,
Yeah.
and we had to give up our cell phones. We had to
Hmm.
give up our cell phones for 1 week. We had to give up our cell phones. And we said, okay, because what are we going to do with our cell phones as we're building houses in Mexico, right? And and we came back, and my daughter said, "Why do I feel so good?" She says, "What? Giving up her cell phone, and me too, me too. I just if you want to go want to go cold turkey on the world, turn off your cell phone and give it to somebody to put someplace that you can't find it."
Right,
Try that for a day. Try that for a day. And
right.
it's life
Oh,
changing.
it could
It
be,
is life changing.
it is, and it would be for me. It'd be very difficult because I book appointments with my clients
Right.
using my cell phone. I mean, it's a business tool for me more than anything else. Uh, but there are times when I put it aside when I'm writing or when I'm working on something. I don't allow my phone to distract me.
But
Although,
listen, there's ways though. There's ways though that you can turn the world off. You know,
oh,
we've all
sure.
turned the world off and said, "Hey guys, I'm not going to be available for the next week." All
Oh,
right? Or
absolutely.
you send the autoresponder out and it says I'm not available for the next week, and I'm turning everything off. And you can tell them I'm going on an African safari or whatever, right? Or I'm just turning
Right.
off my phone. I'm turning off all communication. So there's ways to do it.
Oh, you could
Um,
do it for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so what are a couple of nuggets? I mean, we talked about two big ones, but
Right.
what are a couple of other nuggets that people can take away from this conversation on how to simplify your life?
Well, one of the things that all people can do is take a little bit better care of themselves. No matter, everybody uh, has, your body's your vessel. That's what's carrying you on your journey. If you don't have your health, you really don't have anything.
Yeah,
There's a common, saying going around now that if you have your health, you might have 1,000 problems. But if you don't have your health, you only have one problem, right? And until
so
you solve that problem,
celebrate 1,000 problems.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
that's an
So,
interesting
um,
twist on perspective.
so if everybody can get a little bit more exercise, and I don't advocate, climbing mountains or running a marathon or anything like that, but almost everybody can walk a mile.
Yeah.
It takes like at the 30 minutes. If you're walking really slow, you can walk a mile in 30 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Most people it's about 20 minutes at a normal pace. So everybody can do that. If you do 30 minutes of walking every day, you'd be surprised at the health benefits of that.
Hmm.
Everybody can eat a little bit. I don't mean giving up all the things you love, but instead of eating a whole bag of potato chips, eat a half a bag of potato chips and then a quarter
There you
of a bag.
go.
I mean, just cut back a little bit. You don't have to go cold, like you said, cold turkey. You just don't have to do it. Um, Everybody can try to get more sleep. I think so many people are sleep deprived, and all the reasons for that, there's a number of reasons for that. I'm a big advocate of taking a 30-minute nap in the afternoon. In some cultures, that's considered normal and
Yeah,
considered
right.
right.
Right. A
And in
siesta.
some,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the siesta, or in try getting something done in Italy between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's right.
They have trouble. But in our culture, it's a sign of laziness, or they don't have enough to do, or whatever it might be. And I think that's totally wrong. It's refreshing, and studies have shown that people perform better if they get a rest, usually around 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a little bit 30-minute, little 30-minute nap. Love naps. Um,
Yeah.
okay. And the third thing you can do is start saying good things about yourself to yourself. So many of us beat each other up in the way we talk about ourselves. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not what. And you're always filling your own head with negativity. And you can stop that. You can just change that. Say, I'm doing better today. It's a pretty good day. So the things you can, everybody has good qualities. And
Absolutely.
they're the qualities that other people see in you that attract them to you. So start to recognize those good qualities and start to reinforce those in yourself. Okay.
Isn't, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's called, positive self-talk, but I think it really works. You can rewire your brain. If you start saying good things about yourself to yourself, it's not bragging, it's being honest. If you have those good qualities, then be honest that you do have them.
You know, and that's so hard to do
Yep.
because of the some of the things that we talked about just earlier. It's so hard to do because it's a mean world. It's a mean world, especially with social media and the things that we talked about, right? That it can be hard to shift that self-language, that self-talk that's so important that you're talking about. And uh, it can be hard to do, but it's so important, right?
It
To
is important.
recalibrate
And
yourself.
when you think about it, if you don't love yourself, why would you expect anybody else to love you?
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
And yet that could be the hardest thing in the world
Oh,
to love
sure.
yourself, right?
It, it should be the easiest because you're the person that you're the only person you spend 24 hours a day with, 7 days a week, and
That's true.
you've made it this far. So
Yeah.
you got to be doing something right. You've made it this far. So celebrate yourself.
That
And
is a cool perspective. I love that. You've made
well,
it this
thank you.
far, so celebrate yourself.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
and no matter how bad things have gotten in your life, you've survived 100% of the worst days of your life.
Yep.
You're still here.
That is such a
So
cool perspective.
celebrate that.
Yeah.
Um, and if you learn to love yourself, you'll be amazed at how many people will be attracted to you because it you will exude confidence. And confidence is not the same thing as cockiness. Confidence,
Absolutely.
we're talking about self-worth, you're recognizing your value. It's important to recognize that you're a valuable person. You have something to offer. And if you start to recognize that in yourself, people will be drawn to you. Positive people like being around other positive people, right? Nobody likes being around negative people except other negative people. The old
Right.
saying that misery loves company is wrong. Misery loves miserable company. Misery doesn't want to be around happy
That's true.
people.
That's true. That is true. That is true. It's that perspective. It also led me just to think about something, and that was that if you're having trouble finding reasons to love yourself, use other people's reasons.
Sure,
Use the people who love you, and think about the reasons why they love you, and maybe you can use those same reasons to love yourself,
absolutely.
right?
I think that's
And
great.
that is I wanted to go back on the nap
Okay,
because
good.
I learned something just last week that I wish I knew 40 years ago. And because the fact of the matter is, in a lot of countries and a lot of cultures, taking an afternoon nap is not a viable thing, right? Because they're
Right,
working full time.
right.
And what I learned from a very dear friend of mine was just something so simple that everybody can do, even at work. And what she talks about, what she told me was that her daughter, who's an amazing young woman, she had learned a technique. And this technique is called 50-10 or 90-15. And what that means is work 50 minutes or work 90 minutes and then take a 10-minute break or a 15-minute break. So if you go 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break. If you go 90 minutes working, take a 15-minute break.
Right.
And schedule it. And I actually started putting it on my iPhone, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm starting and every 50 minutes my alarm goes off and I literally get up and I do something. I grab a cup of coffee or a soda pop or I do some push-ups or I just clean my office a little bit. Just completely disengage for 10 minutes.
Yep.
Then my alarm goes off again and I'm back at it. Or what I can imagine doing when I was working is when that alarm goes off, just sit
Yeah.
and relax and rest and put your head down. You could do that. Anybody can do
Yes.
that. Taking a
Everybody
30
can
minute
do that.
nap, maybe not. But that kind of thing, or if you decide to do it every hour and a half, take a 15-minute break. And just in the week that I've been doing it, I have found my productivity because I'm focused in those 50 minutes,
Right.
right? And then I'm taking a mini vacation for 10 minutes. And so so folks try that. Try that because you can't take a nap, but you can do something like that. And and of course, there's a lot of folks out there. It's even hard to take 10 minutes. It's hard to take a break for lunch. I get that, right?
Well,
But
nobody, honestly, nobody can work from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock nonstop with an hour, with a restroom break at 10:30 and lunch for 30 minutes at 12 o'clock. And
it's
you
hard.
can't be 100% productive doing that.
Yes, right. I mean, and you hit the nail right on the head, right? I did that. I'd be working, and then next thing I know, it's dark outside, and I'm like,
Right.
where did my day go? And so
And
you
what did
could
I
do that,
really
but
accomplish?
yeah, are you being optimally productive? Is the
Right.
question you
And that,
ask yourself. Yeah.
I'm a business consultant and I I encourage, my business leaders to think about your team in terms of
Yes.
productivity, not in terms of hours work. If we can agree that this needs to be done this week, a certain whatever it is for that business, if that person can get done what the boss agrees needs to be done and they agree needs to be done, if they can get it done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, I say let them
Let
take
him
the
go.
rest of the
Let
day
him go.
off. Let
Yeah,
them go home.
I agree.
They've done it.
I
They've
agree
they've done what
100%.
we all agreed needed to be done,
Yep.
rather than watching somebody to make sure they don't leave 5 minutes early. You start to feel like you're in jail or you're an indentured servant
Oh,
if
totally.
people are that concerned about how many hours you work instead of what you can get done.
And not only
Why?
that, yeah, on the other side, the employee, right, isn't just sitting there going, 5 o'clock is so far away, right? I mean,
Right,
if they're like, hey, if I can get this stuff done, I can take Friday afternoon off.
right.
It becomes a totally different energy. I agree
And it
with you
be,
completely.
and it becomes some place that's going to attract high performing people because they know they're going to be rewarded for their productivity and not for being able to stick it out until 5 o'clock, whether they're
Yeah,
getting anything done or not.
yeah.
In fact,
You know,
I'd give bonuses to the most productive people.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Rock on. Yeah, and there's my wife worked for Microsoft for many years.
Hmm.
And the culture there is it's a tough culture. It's a very tough culture. And The idea being that if you're not there, people know you're not there. Of course, when COVID came, that kind of changed everything. Um, um, uh, but culturally in the company. But at the same time, um, there are leaders. There were leaders. I presume that there still are leaders out there who 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 lead with that philosophy that says, "Let's get the work done," and
Yes.
and that's how we're going to measure our success. There are other leaders out there who say, "Okay, get the work done as fast as you can, and then when you get that done, I got more work for you."
Yeah. So you're punishing performance. You're punishing success right there
Yeah,
is what you're
that's
doing.
right. That's
So,
right.
so what? People are going to get, I know I've heard this from several people before. Uh, if, if somebody thinks they're worth, let's say $50,000 a year and they're only being paid $30,000 a year, and they're going to say, I'm only, you know, I'm only going to do $30,000 worth of work. If they're not going to pay me what I think I'm worth, I'm going to work 60% of what I'm capable of because that's what they're paying me.
Right.
And people, yeah, people develop that mindset where if you say, if you reward people for their performance, reward people for being excellent at what they do, you're going to get more excellence. It's a cliche that you get more of the behavior that you reward, but it's true. So
Yeah,
you got to
it's
look at
absolutely
what
true.
is it that we're rewarding here?
We're all Pavlov's dogs. We are.
Absolutely. No, yeah, we
And
are.
and it's and the other the one amazing thing that I learned is that rewards don't always have to be come in financial terms,
No, they don't.
right? People
They
think,
don't.
well, everybody's here to make money. Not necessarily. A lot of people are thrive on recognition for,
Well, I'll give you an example.
hmm
And I use this when I do a seminar on motivation, and bosses tend to think people are motivated by money, which is it's the least thing that motivates people in the workplace. But let's say you have a single mother of a daughter who's 10 years old. She's a high performer. Your employee is a high performer, well liked, loved within the organization, does a great job, and you can either give her $100 bonus, let's say even a $500 bonus, or if her daughter has a school program at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, if you give her the time off to go see her daughter perform in the school play or a recital or what track meet or whatever it might be, what's going to be more motivating to that mother? That $100 or even $500 is going to be gone in a minute, but
right,
the memory of
right.
her being able to see her daughter at that track meet or concert or whatever it is going to last a lifetime.
I
So
love
what's going to
that.
be more meaningful to her? What's going to
Yeah,
be more motivating to her? So you
that
got
is
to look at
awesome.
Yeah, you got to look at what's going to motivate that particular person because people
Right,
are motivated by different things. Some people are
right.
motivated by they want to learn things. So if you can send somebody to a class where they could learn, enhance their skills and do something that's fun and exciting for them, that's going to be more motivating than putting another 500 or a
There
thousand
you go.
dollars in their
There you
pocket.
go. And one thing I just want to share is that folks who are listening to this are going, a lot of folks are going, yeah, I wish my boss would do that. Yeah, I wish my leaders would do that. Think about yourself too, right? Think about
Right?
yourself and ask yourself if you're doing those things, if you're
Right.
rewarding people, because whether the old saying that you're leading by example, lead by example. The
Right.
the the catch to that is that whether you're leading by a good example or a bad example, you are leading by example,
Right.
right? And so
Absolutely. Right.
and so I challenge everybody listening to not only think about what Angelo and I are talking about in a third person perspective in terms of I wish another person would do this. Think about yourself, right? And how you are interacting with other people. Because Angelo, I I don't know if I came up with this or if somebody else did because I've been using it all my life. But I have used this kind of to guide my career. And the saying is, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's true. You didn't come up with that, by the way.
Okay, good,
Somebody
good. You just
somebody else
solved that
came up with
mystery.
that.
Somebody said to me that
Somebody
they'd
came
been
up with
going,
that, but
yeah,
it's actually true.
it's totally true.
And yes, and people will absolutely go the extra mile. They'll if you show them that you're genuinely concerned about them as a person and about their career. And I have a good example. I did some consulting years back with Dollar General Corporation, and the CEO was Cal Turner, great guy. His family started the business, and their headquarters was still in Scottsville, Kentucky at the time. Small, very small town. And we had a meeting, and then we are going to walk out. We were going out to lunch, and between his office and the parking lot was the warehouse. And this is the CEO of the company, big company, publicly traded company. He must have seen 15 or 20 warehouse workers. He knew every one of their names. He asked them a question about their family. He asked how they were doing. He had a touch point, a personal interaction with every one of those people. It took us 15 minutes to get from his office to the parking lot because he wanted them to know that he really appreciated them and what they did for the company. And he inspired a tremendous amount of loyalty because just for that very reason, because they knew that the big guy, the leadership, actually cared.
Yeah, and I also loved the example of the woman that you mentioned, who
Yes.
giving a half day off to go see her daughter's performance, because everybody is different. Everybody
Yes.
is different, and to you leaders out there who are responsible for leading people, that example of the young woman given the half day off, that might not be as meaningful as somebody else who doesn't have kids or whose kids are all
Right.
grown up, right?
Right.
So everybody is different, and it's showing that you care about them. And again, I will say that we're talking about business, but this applies to every single one of us in our life,
Oh, sure.
right? And so yeah, and it's a lot more fun that way. It's a lot more fun that way, right? It's a lot more
Abs-
fun lifting people than it is knocking them down. And
yes.
the energy that comes back to you is so much better than than the other.
No
So
question
this is
about
amazing. Yeah. It's simple stuff. It's simple
it. It is.
stuff that
It
life complicates. And
well,
yeah.
you know, a simple thing like, and it's almost become a cliche now, but it works, is to be start to be grateful for what you have. Be
Yes.
grateful every day. Start a gratitude journal every morning. Write down three things you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be something big. It could be the sun's out this morning or it's raining. If you like rain, oh, it's a nice rainy day. I can go for a walk in the rain or whatever it might be. Find something to be grateful for. And if you start to write down things that you're grateful for, you'll find in your life more things to be grateful for. It becomes a habit that just feel grateful for what you have and what you are and the world around you. Uh, It'll change your entire outlook on life, and that requires no special skill whatsoever, except that you're looking for things to be grateful for.
Oh my gosh. That is folks, that is not a nugget. That is not a gem. That's a whole freaking mountain. What you just said, Angelo, every day, just create a grateful journal. Is that what you called
Yeah,
it?
a gratitude journal.
A
Yeah,
gratitude journal. A gratitude journal. Just get a little notebook, right?
yeah,
And just write down, oh my gosh, I know just by you having said that, that is that's a life changer right there. Because I've spoken to a lot of people. I'll give you an example of my daughter. My daughter, and she's been on my podcast. She has an eating disorder. She has a form of bulimia,
Hmm.
and being a dad of someone with an eating disorder, it's a really tough journey, especially for her loved ones. Because
Sure.
me being her dad, it's like you got an eating disorder, eat. Just put the fork with some stuff on it in your mouth. But anyway, to make a long
Well,
story short, huh?
that's like saying to somebody who has depression, to, brighten up. Why? What
Yeah,
do you have to be
exactly,
depressed about?
exactly, right.
It's a legitimate, it's a
It's
legitimate
totally.
to see. Yeah,
And the thing that I never realized is that it's a lifetime affliction. It doesn't go away.
right.
And she once told me as we are going through it, and she's amazing now, and she I know that she helped a lot of people by sharing her experience on my podcast. But as we were going through this process, I said, "Honey," I said, "what are you grateful for?" And she says, I'm having a hard time with that. And I said, "Why are you having a hard time with that?" She said, "Because I don't deserve to be grateful."
Ooh,
And
ooh,
I just I went, "What?" And it took her a long, long time. Something as simple as that. And I
right.
share that because I want to, my experience has been that there are folks out there who feel that way. I know my
Well,
daughter's not the
that's
only one.
no, no. A lot of people, and that is a self-worth issue.
Yeah.
They got a problem with their own self-worth, and you've got to find some way to build that up. I work with
Yeah.
people, I coach people on that on a regular basis. And if you don't value yourself, then it's easier to do destructive things to yourself. Not eating properly is not a good thing. But if you felt good about yourself, if you felt that you had
Yeah.
self, that you did deserve to be grateful, you'd be less likely to have an eating disorder for
They're,
or be depressed or an alcoholic or whatever it might be.
yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It, it, uh, it's not simple, but
No, it's not.
it you distill it down to that. And so, I think that your gratitude journal, I play folks listening, please do it, try it. You'll want to keep doing it. It's one of those
Yeah.
things I know that is really going to help a lot. Um, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it and start building that. And it's a muscle. It's a muscle. It's a
Oh,
muscle.
it's a habit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Once you once you get in the habit of doing it, and you'll be self-reinforced. Nobody else will have to reinforce it in you, but you'll start to feel better, which will be reinforcing. So you'll want to keep doing it. And you'll find that not only does your outlook on life change, but your interactions with other people will change. And
Yeah.
the way that you look
Yeah.
at things will change.
Will totally change. And the other thing that I wanted to encourage is start small. You don't have to start with big grandiose things to be grateful for. Start with the electricity and the lights in the room.
Right.
Start,
No,
start with
shoot.
your toilet. Can you imagine what your life would be like without a toilet?
Right.
So start with some of just little stuff
Well,
if you're having a hard time
at
getting
my
started.
at my age, when I wake up in the morning and nothing hurts, that's the first
Yeah,
that's the first thing to be grateful for.
yeah, I'm grateful for just waking up.
Yeah, well, for there you go. You beat me to it. That's a good one too.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, Angelo, this has been amazing. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And I loved how you wrapped it all up with the gratitude journal because we started talking about a lot of big things, social media and complicating your life and self-esteem and self-love. And and you gave us a very realistic and a very what's the word for it? Whatever.
Actionable. You can
Yeah,
actually do
yeah,
it real easy. Yeah.
yeah. For us to do. Um, did anything else you want to leave this audience with?
Um, well, I'll yeah, let me leave you with this. Uh, you're responsible for the decisions that you make, and your life is the total sum of all of the decisions you've made up to now. So take responsibility for your decisions and recognize that you can start making better decisions right now. So go do it.
My goodness, Angelo, um, that is amazing. I almost use your exact words when I talk to folks, and but what I say is that your life is the product of the decisions and choices that you've made up until this point. And people say, "Well, I couldn't choose my parents." And then I'll tell them, I said, "Okay, would you buy this then? That your the product of your life in the future is going to be the product of the decisions and choices you make from now on, right?"
But besides your parents and besides your biology, your genetics, almost everything else is optional. I mean, it's
That's right.
those are all choices. After that, those are choices you can make.
Yeah.
You can't outrun your genetics, but you can start making better choices.
They're all optional. I love that. All
Yeah.
right. All right, Angelo. Okay, folks, the name of his book is You're Making This Way Too Hard. There it
There it
is. You're
is right
making this
there.
way too hard. And it's all about enjoying life
Hmm.
and simplifying. Really simplifying. So, with that, Angelo, thank you so much for joining me. I love you. God bless you. Everybody, folks, this has been, please share this. Please share this because this will change somebody's life out there and subscribe. With that, I love you. God bless. Angelo, you have something you want to say?
No, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. This has been such a fun conversation. I loved it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'd love to have you back. You know,
Oh,
I,
I'll be back anytime.
the real proof in success is when people actually come back.
Oh,
And so
we've just scratched the surface. We can
okay.
go deep if you want to.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you again so much. Everybody, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.